Well, it's late, but I've been getting this question, so I'm going to answer it. How do I feel about them doing another movie about this guy, Michael Myers? I would be stoked, but there's an issue I have with it. And this is an issue that plagues horror movies. And it plagues horror movies more than it plagues any other genre of movie. And it's really simple. Nobody respects the horror movies. Now, I get it. They're not everybody's cup of tea, and they don't win Oscars, and rightfully so. They're not really fantastically acted pieces of work. But, you know, you look at some of the work by people like Danielle Harris and the fact that it's basically being torn up, and it just... And again, Danielle Harris, people are going to be like, who's that? Exactly. If you don't watch horror movies, you don't know who I'm talking about. But she was in Friday the 13th. She was in Halloween movies, and she was in Hatchet movies. Hatchet movies are mostly bad. But I get what they're trying to do, and so for that, you know, more power to them. And I tried watching Feast movies, which are pretty grim too, but they have a sense of humor, I guess. But here's the problem I have with it, and I'm going to go through the various franchises, okay? So here's Carrie. Shouldn't be a franchise. There shouldn't have been a remake. That being said, I enjoyed this remake a lot, even though Chloe Moritz does not suit the loner nerd. She's not a loner nerd. Even in the shot on the back. So when you've got the shot of her in the bloody prom dress, she's a beautiful girl. And the idea that she in any way is like Sissy Spacek in the original is just, it's a far cry. So that was one of those ones that got remade and nobody liked it. I liked it. I realize a lot of people didn't, but I'm a huge fan of Chloe Moritz. I think she's actually a pretty good actress. Really hoping she doesn't end up in a bunch of cheesy roles from here now that she's an adult, but hey, these things happen. But again, that's something that Hollywood does. Oh, let's just make a remake of that one. This is how you do it right. And they kind of got it wrong. Part 1 with Scream is excellent. Part 2 is kind of silly. My problem with Part 2 was I could tell who the killers were at the start of the movie. Part 1, I thought I might know, but I was genuinely surprised at the end of the movie. The second one, I kind of knew right off the bat. And the third one was just awful. Then they made a fourth part. I own the fourth part, in part because there's so many actors and actresses I like in it, but as a movie, it really doesn't hold up. But they were smart enough with Scream to say, hey, we could make a series out of this, and they did. And it's had 2 seasons, and it's been excellent. But everything that occurs from this movie on is all in canon, and it all stays in that same world, in that same storyline. And I love the Scream universe for that. This one gets torn apart a lot. This is Evil Dead, of course. This is the reboot, as people have called it. Here's the thing. At no point in this movie does it state that this universe is different from that of Ash Williams, the one in Ash vs. Evil Dead. And you can absolutely look at this movie and say, is it in the 70s? Is it now? Is this a prequel? Because here's the thing. You never see a cell phone in this movie, other than the brand of car and the make of car. You don't get tipped off to when exactly this is. So I think the fact that it's a Jeep that they use for the most part might keep some people guessing as to exactly when this is supposed to have taken place. There's talk of reviving this and the storyline of this one for a new one now that Ash vs. Evil Dead is done. And Bruce Campbell has said goodbye to the series. And this is why when people said, well, you know, you got to have Ash. This is stupid. Why are they bringing somebody new? Because everybody ages. Bruce Campbell got older. And he's like, you know what? I've had a good run and I'm happy with it. And I remember when this movie came out and Ash was like, yeah, Mia's badass and that's great and what a great story. And then everybody seemed to get upset with it for whatever reason. And yet if you look at this objectively as a movie, compared to the original cult classic, it's just a better movie. So that's where I understand it. Reboots that nobody asked for. Dawn of the Dead, which redoes Dawn of the Dead, but differently. And they're running zombies. So this is, without Night of the Living Dead before it, this is Dawn of the Dead running zombies. I really enjoyed this reboot. It got good reviews. Everybody seemed to like it. I know there are some who prefer the original. I preferred this one. It's not as brutal as the original. Far more terrifying than the original. Tell you, those running zombies, that's just a bad thing. And sometimes they just get it wrong. Resident Evil. And I really enjoyed the Resident Evil movies up until this one. Retribution. I can't get through this one now. And I've tried watching the final chapter 3 bloody times. I can't get through it because every Resident Evil ignores the one before it. And by the time you get to the final chapter, there are so many inconsistencies, so many stupid, crappy things going on all at once that you're like, wait, 3 movies ago we dealt with this. What in the hell? So the fact that in the same vein, the same universe, it doesn't make sense. And all of the movies are basically, here's a reboot. No Resident Evil, no. And one review that I thought was funny was saying, you know, they've got this T-virus. Meanwhile, they can clone people, and that's just sort of thrown aside like whatever. That'd be a very valuable thing to have, wouldn't it? Cloning people like that just in a factory? They don't care about that. That's not the important thing. It's the T-virus. Whatever. So I can't get through Resident Evil final chapter. I can't do a review of it. I can't, if I can't be arsed to watch it, how in the world can I get my wife to watch it with me when I think it's a piece of crap and I don't want to watch it, and it's my movie series? Nightmare on Elm Street. This collection has everything up until Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and that's where it ends. The reboot with Jackie Earle Haley is awful. Unwatchable. And the original movie for this is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Elm Street was good. Elm Street 2 was odd. Elm Street 3 and 4, I love those ones. 5, not really. Freddy's Dead, give me a break. And then New Nightmare makes up for Freddy's Dead and Dream Child. Which brings me back to where I started. The reason why I'm doing this video. How do I feel about them doing a movie that directly follows this one? From what I can tell, it undoes Halloween 2. I liked Halloween 2. So at the end of Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis has fought off her brother with the help of Dr. Loomis. She ends up in the hospital. Well, her brother's not dead, so her brother tracks her down. And there's the fights in the hospital, and there's all these stabbings in the hospital, and Michael's after her, and Loomis is realizing that Michael's after her in the hospital, and realizes that it's Michael's sister. The fact that she's Michael's sister is not mentioned anywhere in the original Halloween, and yet in this movie that they've got the trailer for, they're like, oh, I heard Laurie Strode's sister, and it's like... And the saddest part is, Halloween 4 is a good movie. So you have Halloween 1, which ends going straight into Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is directly after Halloween 1, which is perfect. Halloween 2 ends with the death of Michael Myers. He's dead. He's dead. You got it? Okay. Halloween 3 was the start of a brand new series of anthologies. They were going to do all these movies and all these Halloween-themed ideas. And then Halloween 3 was critically and at the box office kind of a bomb. And they got scared, so they went back to Michael Myers for part 4 and pretended he didn't die. That he was just burned. So 4 happens. 4 is an excellent movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, it's excellent. 5 happens. 5 is basically a retelling of 4. But I think what makes 4 and 5 work... She's not on the back of this one. That's too bad. What makes this movie work is Danielle Harris as the little girl who's being hunted by Michael. And part 5 has the silly part with the guy with the boots and the hat and the cowboy guy. And I still to this day don't understand what happens there. And then part 6 is virtually unwatchable. Part 6 you can watch because Paul Rudd's in it. And you're like, wow, Paul Rudd's in this. And then the joy of that is gone almost immediately when you realize it's a really, really bad Michael Myers movie. Now, Curse of Michael Myers does try to explain who Michael is and why he is. And why there would be this maniacal killer that kills everybody that comes his way. But it's dumb. And it involves him mating with his own family. And it's a really icky movie when you realize that it involved Michael mating with family members to start off the show. Or a family member. Not this big. Anyways, you know, it's icky. And the movie doesn't get better from there. I remember I saw part 6 in the theater because they promised us Michael was going to die. He doesn't. I came out of that movie enraged. I was enraged that it was a stupid storyline. That any death that happens is off screen. The end of the movie's off screen because sadly Donald Pleasance died during the filming of part 6. So death is off screen and that's it. And then the whole series is dead until Rob Zombie resurrects it. Rob Zombie resurrects it, and his movies are violent. But you know what? The first half of the reboot is a good movie. It is. The first half is a good movie. Where the movie suffers for me is in the second half when he's trying to recreate the original movie. And it's just like, okay, we got to get Andy Brackett in here and Sheriff Brackett, and we've got to hit all the same beats, and it's got to be kind of the same, but since it's Rob Zombie, it has to be gorier, and it has to be more violent, and we have to up the body count a little bit off the original, and it didn't feel right. And then the second part is, again, there's parts of the second movie that I like. There are. And the fact that, and this is a spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, at the end, Michael's dead. And Laurie has taken over as the psycho killer at the end of the movie. And I think that's a fantastic twist. Oh, that was amazing. I wanted to see a third Rob Zombie movie because I wanted to see what he would do with a Halloween that did not have Michael Myers in it. So what does the studio do? No, we're not going to do that. So what do we have? We have a movie coming out that is a sequel to the original movie, wipes everything out of canon. We already had this with H2O. H2O already undid parts 4 and 5 previously. Then we had Halloween Resurrection, where Laurie Strode died. So she's died twice in this franchise's history. Once, before this movie, she was supposed to be dead. And then H2O, she died in Resurrection. So it's frustrating. Because it doesn't happen in other genres. And it feels like studios treat those of us who like horror movies like we're just stupid. Well, yeah, we can make another Hellraiser. We'll just replace Pinhead. Who cares? Pinhead is not Jason Voorhees. You can't just throw pins on a guy's head and make him Pinhead. That's not how it works. Well, we'll just remake Elm Street. We'll just, we'll give it to Jackie Earle Haley. He can look menacing. He's not Freddy. He's not Freddy Krueger. He's not Robert Englund. It is hard. Because you get into a horror movie franchise, and you know that eventually they're going to pull the rug out from under you. Friday the 13th. They went way too far with Friday the 13th movies. What I respect is this. You get Freddy versus Jason after Jason Goes to Hell. Fantastic. Perfect. Great. We see that face-off between them, and it is awesome. And what we're getting now is that because the actors that played those roles have gotten older, Hollywood's like, well, what can we do? I don't know. Try something new. I've been saying for years, and I said before I ever had a channel, man, if I could get a budget and you guys gave me the means, I could put together an amazing horror movie, create a brand new serial killer bad guy, and tell the story different from everybody else because I've seen all of these crappy movies, and I know how to keep it fresh and different. And you know what? There's a lot of other horror fans that could absolutely do that. But for the studios that own these properties, here's the funny thing. The studios that own these properties are the same studios that back in the late 70s and early 80s didn't want to touch them with a 10-foot pole, didn't want to touch Friday the 13th, or Nightmare on Elm Street, or Halloween when it first came out. No. Then it made some money and they go, okay, we'll buy that property. And then they won't have that same faith in somebody new with a different vision. It doesn't have to be more violent. It doesn't have to be more brutal. It doesn't have to be gorier. It just has to be different. What is wrong with doing something different and bringing in something brand new? The last new thing that we saw that I think was a franchise builder was Scream. And Scream, again, that's because it was Wes Craven. So, studios like, all right, well, it's Wes Craven. We'll let Wes do a movie because we know it'll make some money. But I'm getting tired of the horror reboots, and I'm getting tired of all these stupid sequels that wipe out other movies that I've enjoyed. And it is frustrating to watch this happen. And it feels to me, and if you're a horror fan, let me know, it feels to me like a complete disrespect to horror fans. They're telling you, those movies you liked, those movies you enjoyed, they aren't worth anything. So don't worry if we're going to wipe out all the canon. Because it's stupid anyways. Well, here's the problem. If that's stupid, why should I support your movie and go see what you're putting out now? Because I've already put money in your pockets watching these other movies that you say are stupid, so what in the world would make me want to watch this now? I watched the Halloween trailer. If you haven't seen the new Halloween trailer, have fun. And is the title really Halloween? Holy crap. The sequel to Halloween is Halloween? It's not like Halloween 40. Halloween, everybody's an old fart now. Halloween, Michael Myers is in the senior citizen's home. Halloween, Laurie Strode has gray hair now. No, just Halloween. Here it is, Halloween. Next year, we're going to make a sequel to that, too. We're going to call it, well, Halloween. I would be shocked if Laurie doesn't die in this movie. And I'd be shocked if I would care when she does. In Halloween Resurrection, when they killed her off, I was actually mildly upset by it. I was upset by it because it happened right near the start of the movie, and I thought it destroyed everything they did in H2O. And I thought, to me, it felt like they were just wrapping up a loose end, the same as you do in a Friday the 13th movie in the second one. Oh, who killed Jason's mother? We got to kill her off at the start of the second movie. Oh, it doesn't matter that Jason would have had to jog and take transit and drive a car to get to her house to kill her before getting all the way back. I guess he's got a homing instinct like a cat, because he still got back to the lake. And does she live at Crystal Lake? No. How did he find her and rip her head off? I don't know. Whatever. And that's forgivable. I am a forgiving person. The fact that Jason Ubered his way to the girl's house to rip her head off and then Ubered his way back to the lake to start killing teenagers, I'm like, okay, that's acceptable. The constant retrofitting, another one that they did this with was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, but you have 1, 2, and then a bunch of other weird meandering, and then you have the reboot that had Jessica Biel where she looks extremely hot, but you don't know if you're allowed to think she's extremely hot because there's these brutal murders going on at the same time. I've never been more confused in my life than in that movie. Then they had a prequel to that one, which had, what's her name? Jordan Brewster. And I couldn't understand that either because I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they're in this, and it's a prequel, everybody has to die. So I like, okay, so everybody has to die. And then after that one came out, then they came out with a movie that was set after the first movie, 20 years, which denies the second movie. And yet, oddly enough, that movie, it's not bad. It's not bad. Because it takes Leatherface and kind of changes the character a little bit. And it does something kind of fun with it. Alexandra Daddario in that movie probably didn't hurt. As a large Alexandra Daddario fan, didn't hurt seeing her in that movie. But it was not a bad movie. But it still wiped a whole lot of crap out of canon. That's what they do. Well, we'll just make a sequel to the successful one. Why can't they make a movie? Here's an idea I'm going to pitch to you guys, and I'm going to go. Because I belabored the point. So, you have Michael Myers, this mythical killer. That was back in 1978. It's now 2018. It's Haddonfield. It's 40 years later. Michael Myers is thankfully gone. But murders start happening. And they look like Michael. They feel like Michael. You're pretty sure it's Michael. And every now and then in a scene, you'll see the mask in the background that it's Michael. Right? Halfway through the movie, it's revealed that it's not Michael. It's this young kid. 18, 19 years of age, and you don't know why he's doing it. And then maybe you see him going to school. So after he kills a few people on Halloween Eve, you see him going to school and hanging out with kids and talking to people, and he seems normal. What? On Halloween night, as he's getting the mask on, you find out his last name is Myers. You find out that his grandfather was Michael Myers. That through some twisted crappy, and you can bring back Halloween 6 and how he mated with his niece or whatever, that this is the grown version of that kid. That he's Jason's grandkid or grand nephew. That he's related, and he found out about Michael and he thinks it's awesome and he wants to replicate it. but he talks, and he's human. He doesn't just fall down and get right back up. And then maybe at the end of the movie, you have his mother, who could be, I don't know, maybe Danielle Harris comes in and plays his mother. You know, the one who played the little girl in parts 4 and 5. She's 40 years of age. She can play a mom now of a teenage kid. And she comes in at the end and she realizes this is her kid doing this. So at the end of the movie, it's him trying to recreate what his great uncle did and her trying to stop him without killing him. And then she's left torn on what she should do and what she can do. And you call it H40, Halloween 40 years later. You know, the new Halloween. Whatever you want to call it. And you have it end with her killing her kid. Some horribly depressing kind of ending. And she's crying and she's upset. And you can pan out with him dead in a street somewhere, and there's cops coming in and ambulances, and you go to credits. You can have a good movie. You can have a good movie that tells a good story, and that's just off the top of my head. It's still Halloween. You've still got this mask, so you can still get people to come in and want to see that mask. They're not going to feel like you're taking what was canon and just throwing it away. You don't have to revisit all the characters from 40 years ago. You can tell a brand new story, and this is still canon. But you guys are probably right. Go the lazy way. It's still Michael. He's in his 60s or 70s or however old he is, but it's fine. I'm sure he'll move around the same as he did in the 80s and the late 70s. I'm sure he'll be exactly the same. He'll still overpower people that are 50 years younger than him because it's a horror movie. It's what they're going to do. And it's too bad. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know which sequel or remake you thought was the most useless in horror history. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. I apologize for the length of this, but it is a topic I've been asked about, and I have some very strong opinions about it. So there you go. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.